It's the 18th of May 2025. You're welcome back. Unbelievably good weather this Sunday evening in rural Ireland. This is the name of a wind farm I'm taking a look at. Now, one of the things that I never could understand was how wind farms were economically viable, because they have the same cost as a proper fossil fuel power station, maybe a little less than a nuclear power station, but whereas those type of power stations would give up to 90% of their output in a year, except for a little bit of shutting down here and there, the wind farms give 15.8 to 16%. So that's no good. You couldn't, no matter what money you get, you're bound to be in a shortfall. And what I discovered is how they were doing it. I couldn't understand how they were doing it. What I discovered is they pay everything out of their expenses, but they can never pay the capital cost of the wind farm. And the result is to sell it on to some specialist group, and they come along and they forgive the debt. So we're going to take a wee look at Meentycst Wind Farm. And remember, there are two things. There's the profit and loss account, which is the financial situation over the year, and there's the balance sheet then, which shows you a snapshot of your assets, etc. Now it says the principal activity of the company is the generation of electricity from its 89 megawatts, that's a lot, 89 megawatts, wind farms near Ballybuffet, County Donegal. The company is part of SSE Group, so there you are, headed by SSE PLC. Sales of electricity are made to SSE Electricity Limited, a fellow group company, and Airgrid PLC. Now this wind farm was built in 2004, so it's 20 years old. It's near the end of its time. And the directors are B. Kilcline, B. O'Brien, he ceased in 2023, M. Ryan, and as a director appointed H. Donald and J. Dunn. Now, a company must be a going concern in order for it to continue trading. So it says the financial statements are prepared on a going concern basis, which has been supported by the provision of a parental letter from SSE of support by SSE. The group letter of support confirms that the group will provide support to the end of 2025 if required. The directors are satisfied that the group has the ability to provide this support. So it's been propped up by the parent company. In assessing the financial strength, the letter of support provided the directors considered the cash and cash equivalent of the balance, etc. in March 2024, and the undrawn committed bank facilities of 2.7 billion. So they must have an offer of bank loans there. Now the directors have taken into account the group's credit rating and the fact that that the successful issuance of a 1.1 billion long-term funding, so in the financial year, being 750 million 8-year Eurobond and a 4% a Eurobond at 4% in 2023, and a 20-year 500 million Eurobond. So all loaned. So it looks to me like what's happening is a bond, usually you have a coupon, you pay the interest each year, but you don't pay the principal at the end. And when they get to the end, near where the bond has to be paid, they sell it. And that's the question, how can they always get a buyer? In the case of Greencoat Renewables, they've got a buyer from Norway, a big oil company, a big oil company. So what they're saying here is, anyway, this place is safe enough because the main company will bail them out. So the revenue is, what they took in 2023 was 13.9 million, and in 2024 it was 30 million. So the revenue increased dramatically, and several experts have been helping me on this, and none of us can figure out why. Definitely the increase in the fossil fuel price would have given them a bit more, but it couldn't be that amount. We cannot understand that. The cost of sales, the cost it takes to produce their sales, which is mainly electricity, in 2023 was 8.1 million, and in 2024 it was 10.9 million. So again, the cost went up with the sales, and we don't understand how they made such a difference in the 2 years. Now, the operating profit in 2023 was 5.7 million, and 2024 it was 9.4 million. Financial cost, they paid 797,000 interest the first in 2024 and 1.3 million the previous year. And you could work out the principal cost because it gives you the interest rate of the loans, and you could work out the loans from that, the amount they are, by working out the cost, what they paid. I might do that again, but I haven't time now. Profit before tax for 2023 is 4.4 million and 2024 is 18.6 million. So we're at a loss to know how to have this huge increase in money. They paid tax 663 the first year and 2.4 the second year, and so the profit in 2003 was 3.7 and 2004 was 16.2. So how can there be such a massive difference in a year? So look at their balance sheet. Plant and equipment put at 44.9 million in 2023, we'll call that the first year, and 44.5 the second year. So they paid off a little bit of they depreciated their assets by a little, but they're still saying that they're worth 41.5 million at the end of the financial period. Current assets are 930,000 the first year and 6.4 million the second year. Trade and other payables, they have 5.2 million the first year and 4.3 last year that they owe within a year. Now, so net current assets are minus 4.3 million the first year and plus 2.1 million the second year. Total assets, like that's current liabilities, they're adding in the cost of the wind farm and all. It was 40.5 the first year and 43.6 the second year. Trade and other payables falling due within 1 year, and they're saying it's 15 million the first year and only 2 the second year. How come it dropped like that? There's something very strange going on. There's provisions, there's deferred liabilities. Now, we look at finance by how is this all paid for? Capital and reserve. Called up share capital, presented as equity. There's no figure as equity. Reorganization, no, that's it. It doesn't say what it is. There's no figure down for it. Reorganization reserve, 13.5 and 13.5, the exact same. So what is this reorganization reserve? It looks like a big lump of money from SSE electricity, the same as them all. And profit and loss account, the first year is 25 million and is 41 million the second year. How that can be? It's because they're overvaluing their assets. Shareholders' funds 27 million and only 11 million the earlier year. So the earlier year is 11 million and it's 25 the following year. Now, so if you're not interested, don't know how it works, how that statement works, really there's not much more I can say, except that there's a lot of information not given. But it's the same with them all. They all have been making losses. This one suddenly makes a profit. And remember, if you have a farm and you make no profit at all, but the value of the farm increases by 100,000, you have actually 100,000 in your statement, in your balance sheet. Your wealth goes up. So that's the same with this. But what is it doing? What are they actually getting paid? We don't know. But the big clue is in the letter of comfort that nobody's going to call up the capital costs. So if you have a company where you can buy what you like, you can buy a pub, you can buy a hotel, you can buy a garage, you can buy anything, you can buy a farm, you can buy a harbour, pay out millions for it and never pay it back. Throw the cost on the consumer. They're putting the cost of the capital cost onto the main company, and it's charging extra in the electricity bill. That's my finding, having examined several of these. Okay, so far so good. Now here's an article in the Irish Independent. There was no discussion about whether it's the best thing to do. Derrybrien wind farm seeks to pack up, leaving a 70 wind turbines behind. They had no proper SEA, and on this occasion the EU took them on, but then never allows other companies to build wind farms without complying with the directives. Caroline O'Doherty is the writer. The taking down of controversial Derrybrien wind farm comes at the end of more than 20 years of legal wrangling. Its removal from County Galway Mountain will leave behind more than bad memories, though, as the foundations of the 70 turbines are to remain in the ground. So they're not going to decommission them at all. Now, if we had the way of working at the time, we could take an action against the owners, both the owner and the farmers who own the land, whoever owns the land, to make them take it down. Gort Wind Farms, that's the same thing. The ESB subsidiary that owns the facility recently held pre-application consultations with Burpernala to tease out preliminary issues before lodging a planning application for the required works. And I'll be making a submission to that and insisting they take down the whole thing. It told planning officials it intended to apply to remove the majority of above ground features from the site, including all turbines, masts, electrical plant and overhead lines. It would also seek retention in situ and in perpetuity of part of the existing development, including at and below ground level structures, such as the turbine foundations and other foundations, and the substructures on the site. In the case of Derrybrien, which gained notoriety when its construction caused a massive landslide in 2003, looking to leave the underground structures in place is not expected. It's not expected, but can't get them out. During the investigation that follows the landslide, it emerged no proper environmental impact study was carried out, or indeed sought by the planning authorities. You see, it didn't bother their head. And then we're busy making in submissions and they ignore them, and there's no strategic assessment for any of it. If it had, it would likely have warned against the digging into the loose, wet, peaty soil and of Slieve Ahi Mountain to install and erect the wind farms. And what about the grouse it destroyed? It would not be possible to remove turbine foundations without risk to ground stability, and the ESB spokesman told The Independent, "Get jackhammers out and pay people and dig it up into fine pieces." When I brought this up at a big meeting in the Chester Beatty Library, I was told that there are water jets that will cut out the concrete. That's the answer came from Airgrid and them people. Martin Collins of the Derrybrien Action Group, which formed to represent local people whose land, property, roads and rivers were destroyed by the landslide, sees logic in that, but the move raises questions. There's been no discussion with the community, no there won't be, apart from seeing last September when we were told by ESB that what they were going to do. There's no discussion about whether it's the best thing to do. We don't know what it means for the mountain in the long term. We don't know what aftercare is envisaged. Meanwhile, GE Vernova, owners of the country's first and only offshore wind farm in Arklow, announced that last week that it's going to be decommissioned. It is expected, though not confirmed, that the company will also seek to leave the foundations in place in the seabed. That's illegal. The conditions of planning was to take them out. We will work with local officials to progress the decommissioning process in a timely and responsible manner. These two wind farms will be the first to be decommissioned in Ireland, so there is no precedent to follow. So there's no precedent. There is the precedent. There has to be taken out completely. In other countries, various approaches are taken. Yeah, what about complying with the planning permission? Sometimes the massive reinforced concrete bases are dug up, and there you are, broken up and taken away to reuse the steel within, but often they are left behind and buried. Offshore wind is a newer technology, so no pattern has formed around it. No, they'll try and leave them there as well. Pouring concrete and steel, that's all Paddy knows. The Department of the Environment said it was developing guidelines, but that if any of the offshore wind projects currently in planning got permission, that would come with a rehabilitation schedule that would specify the works to be completed when the operation ceased. That's there for Derrybrien, to restore the site to the original condition. The Department of Housing, which oversees planning for onshore wind turbines, said its guidelines advised that decommissioning should involve the removal of all of the above-ground elements of the wind development and making good the site. Removal of all the above-ground elements of the wind energy development and making good on the site. And that foundation pad can be covered with local soil, except exposed locations where they should be resodded. So they don't intend to take it up at all, and they said they could. Industrial body Wind Energy Ireland said the key principle when decommissioning was the minimising of additional environmental impact and restoring the land. So they got planning permission on the grounds that they'd take it out, and they decided now they're not going to. A study is commissioned last year said 1/5 of all wind farm capacity would reach the end of their operating licence by 2030. So in theory, that could mean a lot of sites to be made good. It'll cost more to do that than any electricity ever came out, all using fossil fuel. However, WEI, Wind Energy Ireland, is pushing for the extension of licences for repowering, a move that government backs, which would kick the question of the aftercare down the road. So they want to kick it back down the road. The planning permission can be refused, and I'll be making sure and helping people to make sure that they do not get them extended. Eventually, though, many will have to be decommissioned, particularly when turbines wear out, as new models are much bigger and unsuited to 30-year-old foundations. Jerry McElvilly of Friends of the Earth said, repowering should be an option where possible, but otherwise consideration should be given to keeping sites as clean energy facilities in some other way, perhaps converting to solar. Failing that, they would be rewilded and restored for ecotourism. Yeah, people are going to go up to look at a big lump of concrete in the ground. But what we really like to see is the sites handed over to community-owned energy projects, which the farmer owns them. The farmer owns the land. Failing that, they should be rewilded and restored for ecotourism. But what we'd really like to see is the site handed over to community-owned energy projects. So he wants more solar. So after digging up the whole thing for wind, they're now going to dig up the whole thing for solar. You see, they never ever give up. All loss making, how long it will last, I don't know. I think it'll probably fall down by means of a general economic collapse. That's 18 minutes. So we see now, I can't find any wind farm that does a genuine set of accounts that shows what happens at the end of its life, that shows that they're paying back the capital sum. There's a deal between the big energy companies and the small wind farms that they'll carry the can for the capital cost, and they'll load it on the bill and pile it on the bill of consumers. Folks, comment underneath. It's some sham. It is some sham. And they're still building more, and they're only starting, according to the Taoiseach Micheál Martin. They're all a crowd of liars, of course. Eamon Ryan has said the other day that wind energy and renewable energy is bringing down the cost of electricity, and that, of course, is a diabolical lie. How he can say that, and why any broadcaster allows him to say it, it's just about me. But you make a complaint, it's Hobson's choice. Generally speaking, they won't heed you at all. We'll see you back, folks, for something else. Biggest scam the world ever seen, the net zero, the renewable energy racket. Good luck. Thank you.